Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning.
Tom, we've been predicting for quite some time now that there was going to be a change in the VA aid and attendance. Those are the rules that allow certain veterans and their spouses to get assisted living benefits.
Exactly, and so it really did provide a nice stream of income for the vet or their spouse in order to stay in personal care assisted living. But the rules were very lenient up until about mid-October, and now they've instituted some pretty rigid rules.
And frankly, somewhat legitimately so. The system was being gamed. It was being abused by transfers made to children, having no impact on eligibility. And as we stated last week, it had a tremendous impact on Medicaid eligibility for the nursing home. And the VA had been making it clear that these rules changes were coming. There's some advantages to the rules change because the rules change have now made it more certain as to the exemption amount, whereas under the previous rules, there were some generalized numbers. 80,000 was bantered around, but it was actually not in the regulations.
Well, that's a good point. So now you have a rule book with fixed numbers, and that allows for a lot of planning. But again, it also means that the old rules are out the window. The old techniques are out because they are traps going forward.
And pending applications in which people didn't listen to our warnings are going to have some very significant adverse consequences.
Exactly, because there are penalties and the durations where you are ineligible are much longer, and so you need to be able to be nimble enough to fix those problems if you want to eventually get benefits.
And oftentimes the people who were purportedly doing it for nothing were selling products that involved substantial commissions, also involved irrevocable transfers to the non-spouses, children, and so forth. And while it could be cured by a return, many times the product that was sold to them, they cannot take the money out without substantial early withdrawal charges.
And that's a good point because there were all these patriotic sounding organizations that were really just annuity sales groups doing these applications for free, but selling these products that created massive problems in the nursing home side.
And for free is pretty important. We can't do the applications because we can't get compensated for them, but both your firm and our firm provide assistance to people, advising them on how to do it. And most of the time in the area there is a VA representative that with some guidance you can get the person through the process, and we do not charge fees to assist people in getting these things approved.
Well, that's a good point because most of the time our role is coaching them, and there's some things we lay out for them and explain, but we usually have a really good local VA rep who again is not going to do anything for a fee, and will walk you through that process.
And one of the challenges that we are confronted with as elder law attorneys is the strategies that people were using, which sort of took advantage of the VA system, were absolute train wrecks, did not work for medical assistance.
Yeah, it was the Wild West, and people were being told to give away things and buy products and do all this stuff that 6 months later when mom or dad had a health issue, it caused a major nursing home problem.
Because it didn't cross various programs. And one of the things that people need to bear in mind is the VA is not going to pay for nursing homes. They've abrogated to the Medicaid system, and so people need to understand that while you may have gotten them a benefit for assisted living, which we think is important, in no manner are we saying it's not important,
Right.
you need to bear in mind that that benefit was going to go away when the person went in the nursing home, and we're going to now have to look at Medicaid rules, which are totally different than VA, and complying with VA does not comply with Medicaid.
Right, and so you need to get that bird's eye view of the whole system and understand how it all interacts and do things that are not irrevocable and that are easily fixed in case that health does change.
And unfortunately, there's, the VA rules are actually, in many senses, more restrictive now than the Medicaid rules. Mm-hmm. And so people need to be careful that what they've heard in the past, that may have worked in the past, they cannot rely upon that. October 18th is the magic date, and the whole landscape changed.
Yeah, and you just have to be careful, know what you're doing, and if you have engaged in some of those activities, know how to fix it if there is a problem.
Which frankly means seeing a qualified elder law attorney.
Get some good advice.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas A. Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to a special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. My guest today is Carolyn True, Director, Senior Services Division, Frederick County, Commission on Aging is what it is. But
it used to be.
So, Carolyn, I think one of the greatest misunderstandings about what your organization does is it's solely focused on low-income people.
And that is a misconception. I think initially when the Older Americans Act was authorized in the 60s, that was the target audience, but we have grown an awful lot since that time, because not only are we serving older adults, some of whom are low income, some of whom are not, but we're also serving people over the age of 18 who have a disability. So we're serving a wide range of people. And what we're trying to do is make sure that they've got the services and supports that they need in order to remain in the community and provide education and health benefits for them.
And one of the things that's important to say is while you're Frederick County, Maryland, the Older Americans Act requires every county to support it on a similar level. So every one of our viewers has an organization within their county that's doing similar services.
You're right about that. Absolutely. There are 19 what we call area agencies of aging in Maryland, and every jurisdiction has a AAA that they can go to for assistance and support.
All right, so you have a beautiful facility opened a few years ago on Tawney Avenue, but it's not the only one.
No, we have 3 other senior centers. There are a total of 4 in Frederick County. We have our Senior Services Division offices are located on Tawney Avenue along with the Frederick Senior Center, but we also have a senior center in Urbana, in Emmitsburg, and in Brunswick.
And tell me about some of the activities that go on within those centers.
They're growing and changing every day, I can tell you that. All of them offer meals, health education, fitness programs, various crafts. It really depends on what the people of that senior center are interested in having at that center, and then we will do everything possible to make sure that those services are available.
And open 5 days a week?
5 days a week. We also have some evening hours, and we're looking at, depending on staffing, we'd like to have them open on Saturdays as well.
And so this gives a chance for a person to get out and socialize at any level that they want daily.
Absolutely, because socialization is key to people's well-being, and we try very hard to make sure that we offer activities and programs that help those individuals be social, remain in the community, because it keeps you young.
And one of the challenges we have is that obviously, you know, you're a government agency with some support from the community, but you shouldn't let resources keep you from taking advantage of the services.
You're absolutely right, because we do not deny anybody an opportunity to participate because they can't afford to pay. So people have the opportunity to come in, participate, meet new people, get out of the house, hear their own voice, because there are many people who live by themselves who might not hear their own voice. So our senior centers provide that opportunity.
Now, one of the other things that's crucial, and when we talk about it's not just people of low means, but everybody needs to participate. We're seeing ever increasingly that people do not have health insurance post-retirement, and your organization is very strong on providing an assistance on how to select an appropriate plan.
And I think that's one of the important parts of what we do. We are advocates for individuals to help them understand what their benefits are, what the health insurances might be for them, depending on their physical need or what their financial status might be. So we are looking at the whole person, trying to determine what makes the best sense for them, and then in the end, they can make the decision that best fits them.
And two of the plans that we routinely deal with require an annual election. That's Part C plans as well as their prescription drug plan. And every year they need to reanalyze that, and you have people there to help them.
We do. We have counselors that can assist with the health counseling piece of all of that, help them make the right decisions based on their needs and physical condition at the time.
And one of the things that your organization all assists with, which is just a source of enormous frustration for me, is the prescription drug subsidy under Maryland, which is very liberal. Most of the people that we see are retired, could access that program, but it's a little difficult to access through the internet, and your people help them a lot.
And we encourage people to come in, make an appointment, come in, talk with the counselors so that we can learn more about them and what their needs are, and then help guide them in the right direction.
And the most important part of that subsidy is the annual election period for the prescription drug plan is on a time-sensitive basis, but the subsidy can be applied for any time.
That's true. So we encourage people to come in, let us help them work through that process so they can make the application correctly, and then they'll get, if they're qualified, then be able to receive that assistance.
So how can they get a hold of you?
Our telephone number is 301-600-1605.
Carolyn, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on
Thanks
this.
for having me.
Thank you. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Ma'am, give me a good push.
Hang on, just 1 minute.
Ma'am, I need you to push right now.
Honey, you really need to push.
It's time.
Just hold on a minute.
No, right now. One push, ma'am. One push.
Just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com.
If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Dr. Matt Wagner, psychiatrist, behavioral health services, Meritus Health System. I managed to get that out.
Very good.
Finished the first competency test for dementia.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Always glad to have you here. You know, one of the confusions that we have as myself representing families dealing with dementia is the difficulty in sort of identifying what the diagnosis is.
Right. Well, dementia refers to the syndrome of loss of brain functions. You can think about it as brain failure. So when we know that organs fail, right? People have heart failure, they have kidney failure, they have liver failure. It means that organ isn't working well. And when the brain isn't working well, that's called dementia. You have loss of function in at least several different areas of brain functioning.
And so dementia is the largest category of them all, but then there are all kinds of subsets within dementia.
Right, so dementia just describes that this organ is not working right, but it doesn't tell you what the cause is. Now, there are a number of causes of brain failure or dementia, just like there are a number of causes of heart failure or liver failure. By far the largest cause of dementia is Alzheimer's disease, which is a degenerative disease of the brain that we don't really understand the cause, but probably has a lot of genetic factors.
And I understand that sometimes diagnosing that can be difficult.
Well, it turns out to be fairly straightforward most of the time, although we don't have a lot of specific diagnostic imaging tests or laboratory tests. It is a clinical diagnosis, but the presentation is usually pretty straightforward. It's a gradual and progressive decline in memory at first, then other intellectual or cognitive functions, such as knowing how to plan things, how to know how to pay a bill and write a check, how to know how to operate your washing machine, how to be able to plan a trip to the grocery store and the barber shop and back. People start to lose that ability, which is called executive functioning, and they have a lot of recent memory impairment, and it's gradual and slowly progressive over time. That's pretty typical of Alzheimer's disease. Yes, there are some harder to diagnose cases around the edges.
Well, one of the interesting characterizations that the Alzheimer's Association uses, it's not that you don't remember where you put your keys, it's that you don't remember what they're for.
That's exactly right. And people lose other functions too sometimes. They lose the ability to manage things in space. How do I button this shirt? And that's called apraxia. So there are different kinds of brain functions that get lost.
And oftentimes the challenge here is at a family level is that the person who's beginning to experience those symptoms many times does not recognize that they're occurring, and oftentimes it's sort of obscured from their family as well.
Right. I mean, in many cases, this is really more of a family burden than it is for the individual. Although in some early cases of dementia, Alzheimer's disease being the largest cause, people are aware that they're failing. But you know, one of our brain functions is the ability to look in on ourselves from the outside and monitor. How am I doing? You know, how well am I remembering things? How well am I functioning? That part of the brain functioning gets lost early because it's a higher level function. They tend to get lost early. So people lose the ability to appreciate that they're not doing well. They think they're doing fine. Their family's aware that they're, you know, not doing fine.
Well, you know, the great challenges we have as elder law attorneys, you know, you'll see people write powers of attorney says, in the event of my incapacity, then I appoint somebody else. Well, the reality is the person who's suffering the incapacity all the time is the worst judge of whether they're suffering it or not.
That's exactly right. And that's where, you know, a durable power of attorney is helpful, and you may have to get a physician or some other expert to be able to make that determination and then allow that to go, function to go forward.
And so as we look at this, then, you know, it manifests itself a lot of ways. So Alzheimer's is common, but we oftentimes hear families say, well, I don't have Alzheimer's, I have vascular dementia. What's the difference?
Right. The second most common cause. So Alzheimer's disease is responsible for 50 to 60% of the causes of dementia. The second most common cause is vascular disease of the brain. That means strokes or mini strokes. You can distinguish the two sometimes on the clinical basis if someone has some other neurological signs or symptoms. In everyday practice, many people have a combination of both. And in terms of treatment and the course of the illness, they're pretty much the same. So you can say that 90% of dementia cases are going to have a fairly similar course over time. So it's not a big distinction in practical life.
But oftentimes, you know, the consequence to the family member and the person suffering from it are relatively similar in terms of trying to manage that person on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have other diseases that progress with dementia as well. We'll see Parkinson's and so forth, which dementia may become part of the symptoms as well.
Parkinson's disease is probably the third most common cause. After that, there are a lot of less common causes like brain trauma, alcoholism, some other systematic diseases like vitamin deficiencies. These are things that doctors will check for when the person comes in with a complaint of memory or cognitive loss. Because sometimes you can intervene, but in 90 to 95% of the cases, this is a disease that doesn't really have a cure and is going to require management over time and a lot of support to family.
All right, behavioral health services, how can they contact your organization?
We can be reached through Meredith Medical Center. Just call the main number and ask for behavioral health services. We've got an outpatient office, and we're happy to see patients.
Dr. Wagner, thanks for taking time to appear on my program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
The Community Foundation strives to be a forward-thinking organization.
We are assessing needs, working with donors to see things differently,
so that Frederick County can be its best. It's a wonderful place for all of us to live, work, and play.
We look forward to addressing the future needs of the community.
Visit frederickcountygives.org and learn how you can start to see things differently too.
Albright, Crumbacher, Mal & Eitel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. Making Sense focuses on the financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Pete Alexander, a partner in the regional accounting firm of Albright, Crumbacher, Mal & Eitel with offices in Hagerstown and Martinsburg, West Virginia. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Great to be here, Mike.
Pete, we're in the last week of the year. There are things that are just must be dealt with. Let's first of all talk about that RMD. What the heck do we mean by RMD?
Required minimum distribution. Anybody that has money in an IRA, and the money could have been put into an IRA directly, or the money could have been rolled over from your company 401k, simple plan, or some type of pension. But if you have money in an individual retirement account, that money, unless it's a Roth IRA, and we'll exclude Roth IRAs here for this conversation, that money has never been taxed. The money you put in, you got a tax deduction for. The earnings, never subject to tax. The government has been sitting around patiently waiting to extract their pound of flesh.
And has now lost patience.
They have, once you hit age 70 and a half, not 70, not 71, the year in which you hit 70 and a half, the government says, we want you to begin to take out money, and we want to begin to tax you on that money.
Do you have to spend the money?
That's right. That's a lot of people think some reason they take out. You can take it out of your IRA and you can put it into a non-IRA, but the same identical investment if you so wish.
Savings account, your regular investment account, and you don't have to spend it.
Right, but at 70 and a half, you must pull the money out and you must begin to pay tax on that money. The money pulled out is considered retirement income, whether it's the money you put in or the earnings. It's all reported on a 1099-R. It's all deemed ordinary income, which means you don't get the special capital gain rates or anything like that.
So it doesn't matter it was invested in stock. It still comes out as ordinary income.
It comes out as ordinary income. But
now somebody says, I'm going to get really smart. I'm not taking it out. The government's not going to tell me what to do.
Well, first of all, the year that you turn 70 and a half, as we said, is the year you're supposed to start taking it. The government will allow you to delay 1 year, but the next year you must take out the first year and the second year.
Essentially double down.
You have to double down. So for most people, it doesn't advantageous them to take it all out in 1 year, spread it out over two, at least it guarantees you in a lower tax bracket. Now, if you just don't take it out, and the government does eventually catch you.
Which they will, because there's reports going to them all the time.
Yeah, the penalties, first they charge you tax, then they charge you interest because you didn't pay the tax timely, then they charge you penalties up to 50% of your under distribution. So you take your tax, your penalty, the interest, you could end up paying as much in tax as your required distribution was. In essence, a 100% tax liability.
So there is just no bargain in playing around with it.
No, you must begin to take it out. Like I said, you don't have to spend it. And as we've talked on previous shows, there are ways to minimize the tax when you take it out.
And there's some other things to bear in mind too. You know, you have 3 IRA accounts there, just saying they're all three $100,000, and you have a required minimum distribution of $15,000. Do you have to take it out of each account $5,000?
And that's a good question also, because each bank is required to send you notification on your 70.5 year and tell you how much you're required to take out from that IRA. So under that scenario, you could get a notification, or should get a notification, from each of the 3 banks, each of them telling you you're required to take out $5,000. No, you don't have to take it all out of each one of them. You can pick one and take it all out of one. You do have to accumulate them to make the calculation how much you take out, but you are indeed allowed to just pick one and take it out of one IRA account.
So if you had, if you were using CDs, which we don't recommend, but pretending that you were, and 2 of those CDs had pretty high interest rates on them, relatively speaking, you could take it out of the one account that is not earning very much interest.
Exactly, and do remember, husband and wife are completely separate for this. So when we say you can take it out of one IRA, if husband has a $15,000 minimum distribution and wife has a $15,000 minimum distribution, they each must take 15 out of their own IRAs.
Right.
They can't double up because that money is tracked completely separately.
And then, of course, as we're in the last week of the year, they should be paying attention to the potential for charitable contributions and also the potential of having a distribution to a charity.
Yeah, we've talked about this briefly on other shows. When that money comes out, it is naturally taxable. If you put the money and you decide, well, I don't need the money, I have enough money to live on the rest of my life, I'm going to donate a chunk of it to charity. In the olden days, you almost were assured a charitable deduction. Nowadays, you might not get the charitable deduction because the new tax law has changed the standard deduction for a couple over 65 to $26,600. So you may not be itemizing. So there is a provision in the law where you can have the IRA trustee send the money directly to the charity. Then that money isn't even taxed to you on page 1 of your return. It's as if you didn't take it out, but it still counts against your required minimum distribution.
Pete, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the show.
Great to be here, Mike.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.